Everybody, it's your boy Ryan, and welcome to another Nootropics 20. Going to talk about a lot of things. Got 13 really important things to talk about relating to biohacking and nootropics. First, every shred of information we put on this channel is brought to you by a couple products. We got a really cool specials and some new stuff coming out, so check it out. Number one, we have a stack, fittingly. It's called Cortex. Cortex is a very powerful pre-made stack. It's kind of a stack you take if you just want to sit down and get work done. It's really for business people. That's what we had created it for, because I was an entrepreneur taking it. And yeah, I mean, it just turns everything on. Anyway, $31, livecortex.com for the Cortex stack. If you need my help on formulating stacks, we have 3 different consulting packages. We have a simple 40-minute call that'll get you some advice, answer some questions. We'll suggest you some stacks. You can buy that at livecortex.com. For more comprehensive work, especially if you're a business person, executive, or entrepreneur, or venture capitalist, we have packages that we work with executives all around the world where we formulate you stacks. We work with you very closely, unlimited calls, unlimited emails, to get you the best stacks to supercharge brain performance. We also go into basically everything else too, like diet and sleep, and optimize the hell out of all that stuff so you just function super awesomely to do your business work. 2 packages, a 3.5-month package and a 6-month package. Those are worth your time if you are an executive. If you are a guy and need to raise testosterone, look, there's a lot of protocols out there. There's a lot of things that people say you can do, and most of them don't work. I figured out a protocol that actually did work, because I tried all those other things. I was going to go on TRT, and then I developed the Viking testosterone protocol. If you want to raise your testosterone and get libido and sex drive and masculinity and feel good, it's a nootropic in and of itself. Get the Viking testosterone protocol. Last thing, if you're brand new to nootropics, go pre-order Nootropics Ground Zero. You have to do it right now. A lot of people were kind of saying to us, the masterclass, the Nootropics Masterclass, which is a cool video course, is a little too advanced or something for me. Like, it's just a lot of it's over my head. It assumes I know certain terms. So we created a course called Nootropics Ground Zero, which is intended to take you from absolutely ground zero, brand new, and maybe even experimenting for a month or 2 and just like not getting the best results and not being able to figure it out, to the pro level. That's the 3-year mark. Pro level is like 3-year mark. Then you've got masterclass, which is 6-year mark, which you can find in the masterclass. But Nootropics Ground Zero, you can pre-order now for $66. It launches next Wednesday, March 18th at 6 p.m. Eastern time. It's going to launch for $99, okay? That link is in the first link in the description below, so go pre-order it right now. And then last thing, coupon code 69 saves you $50 on the Nootropics Masterclass. The Masterclass is very elite, very high level, very advanced course on nootropics. Yeah, it assumes you're at least a couple years in to taking nootropics. Coupon code 69 takes a lot of money off of it, $50 in fact, livecortex.com. All right, so first question in the Nootropics 20 for today is Modafinil. Take it on an empty stomach or with a full stomach. In fact, I had just gotten correspondence today from a client of ours that is trying Modafinil for the first time, and it actually came with instructions. And the instructions said to take it with food, so make sure that you have some food in your stomach. The reason that they would say that, and the reason that sometimes people do suggest that, is just because Modafinil tends to, probably because of its histamine properties, I'm not entirely sure why this is happening, potentially upset people's stomach if there's no other food in the mix, right? It's sort of like some of the other really hardcore drugs or compounds that one might take that could mess with somebody's stomach or just make it feel a little uncomfortable or something, if there's just no food around. So you kind of want food and stomach acid and things to blunt that effect so that there's no irritation for those of you that have ulcers or something, etc. However, if you have a pretty bulletproof gut or a pretty good functioning gut, then Modafinil on an empty stomach really shouldn't be an issue. I don't eat until like 2, and that's after the gym, and I go there, kill it, and then I eat a big meal, and then but sometimes I take Modafinil at 10:30 a.m. so it doesn't bother me. But it did when I had really major gut problems back in the day, okay? So that's something to be aware of. Ultimately, I would say medium stomach is fine, right? Eat something, wait a half hour, 40 minutes till everything starts digesting, then take Modafinil, you'll be good. Ryan, this is kind of a long email, but I'm going to summarize. I think I'm having blood flow issues. My doctor told me I had low blood volume. What is the, basically the guy's asking what the hell's wrong. Low blood volume is usually low blood sodium and generally an inability for blood to flow in adequate quantities throughout your body. You probably have erection issues if that's happening, and probably some brain fatigue if that's happening. This is kind of like I would say, a hidden cause of a lot of people's fatigue, low blood volume, so you got to look into it. Usually what causes that is adrenal hormone output problems. That's just usually what causes it, and or potentially nitric oxide issues, but really it's like you have hormones that control blood flow. Your kidney controls blood volume essentially with a hormone called aldosterone, and when you have adrenal issues, that hormone doesn't function correctly, and you end up losing a lot of salt, and that could be problematic. For that particular issue, I would be taking licorice root. And there's actually another question on licorice root, which we'll address. I would be taking licorice root for that to increase blood pressure and thereby increase blood volume, and you'll probably feel a lot better. You'll probably have a lot more energy. You'll be making more cortisol, which is pretty critical in this situation, in my opinion. And I have to look at your numbers and actually diagnose you and figure it out, but that's my off-the-cuff suggestion. Ryan, I am pretty new to nootropics, and I'm trying to figure out the right dose on triacetyleuridine. There's too much disparate information on the web. What dose should I start with? Good question. Yes, there is too much disparate information on the web about everything. One guy says dose it this way, another guy says dose it this way. And none of them really have figured out an optimal starter approach to dosing anything. That's kind of why I exist, because I made it my mission to do that after experimenting and running into problems for years. First of all, I would say go get Nootropics Ground Zero. Go pre-order Nootropics Ground Zero, because I can tell where you're at. You're sort of sick of looking around the web and seeing all these conflicting stories about doses, so you'll get all of your answers there. But to answer your question on TAU, look, principally you want to start low and work your way up. That's it. Just like every single time with everything, you want to start low and work your way up. I wouldn't stack with a whole lot of things. I would approach it thus. I would take 40 milligrams triacetyleuridine. I'd take about 50 milligrams of CDP choline. I would take it with a B complex, and I would drink half the amount of coffee that you normally drink, and be on your way. Trust me, you'll feel pretty good in that regard. You'll get a lot of things working for you. Now, if you get a great effect from that, stacking those doses, then you can start moving it upward if you need to in very, very small increments. On the TAU, move it up in 10 or 20 milligram increments until you reach a spot where you're like, all right, this is it. I'm super awesome and I'm functioning great. Next question, can inositol be used for depression? Wow, good question. Inositol is actually a point of focus for me right now for a variety of reasons. And what's really annoying about inositol as it relates to research on the web is the mechanism is just fucking elusive. Excuse my French, but I just had to emphasize it's elusive, and nobody really knows. It's molecularly similar to glucose, and you make it in your brain, and that's kind of all we know. But the one thing that does seem consistent in the research about it is that it seems to balance out neurotransmitters generally, and specifically balancing serotonin and dopamine, which is a very critical interplay between the two of them. So however it's exerting its effects on balancing those two chemicals, it does seem to be doing that. Therefore, yes, it would be useful for depression. I would shoot for, I'm not entirely familiar with the dose, I'd shoot for I think 200 to 400 milligrams, whatever sort of the RDA or the recommended, there's no RDA for that, the recommended dose on most supplements, trusted supplements, Nature's Way, Natural Factors, perhaps Life Extension. If they have an inositol, I would go with the suggestion on the bottle and kind of see from there. Besides nootropics, what is the best way to balance neurotransmitters? Well, inositol could be one of them. But I would also say niacin. Niacin is pretty underrated. Just B3, niacin, is underrated for balancing neurotransmitters. There is a lot of... Well, there's some research, but there's also a ton of anecdotals on people that have had imbalanced neurotransmitters after essentially synthetic GABAergics, whether alcohol or benzodiazepines, and then stopped whatever they were taking, drinking alcohol or taking benzos, and then ended up in a place where they were like, yeah, okay, they're not on the medication anymore, but they still feel crappy, and they still don't have mood benefits, and there's like excess glutamate or something firing, and they don't necessarily make dopamine in response to things that would typically motivate them or trigger the dopamine response. Taking pretty high doses of niacin, 500 to 1,000 milligrams, sometimes twice daily, and recovering that within a month. So, you know, that'd be my answer on the best thing to generally balance neurotransmitters would be that quantity of niacin. Yeah, and then B vitamins, you know, the rest of the B vitamins with it, perhaps a B50 complex with that would be useful. Ryan, I took some cannabis with modafinil. It was the best experience ever. Any insight into what's happening here? Funny question. Good question. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, with cannabis, the mechanisms are also somewhat elusive. It's like increasing acetylcholine in certain regions, decreasing acetylcholine function in other regions of the brain. Yeah, I mean, modifying serotonin to a degree, modifying dopamine to a degree. Modafinil is creating a bunch of extracellular dopamine. I would say the interplay is probably in dopaminergic pathways. Not sure, you know, how to expand upon it aside from that, but that's what I would say. I'd also say anecdotally and kind of non-scientifically, it's really cool to every now and then ingest cannabis and then have a really good functional nootropic in the background, because you get some of the cannabis benefits like creativity and the ability to let go of rigid thinking patterns that you have had in the past month or 2 months or a year or something, and things become a lot more fluid, and I think you can kind of change the way you think about things, which would indicate some sort of synaptic or general neuroplasticity happening, some sort of malleability state that is happening in that particular situation. So yeah, I think it's awesome. I don't think there's any contraindications or bad things about that, as long as you're kind of doing that somewhat sparingly. Next question, back to licorice root. Licorice, actually good for aldosterone. Yes. So there's a pretty famous study on this for those of you that study licorice root and aldosterone, adrenal hormones. You probably saw it if you're into it enough. And it essentially says that there's a small percentage, but a noticeable percentage of people that end up in the emergency room for hypertension and things related that are attributable to that literally the medical establishment and these studies have attributed to intake of licorice root. Like a guy was drinking a licorice root tea in one of the instances. Someone else was high dosing licorice root supplements. And what they had figured out was that in a lot of them they had induced hyperaldosteronism, which is basically having high quantities of aldosterone, which therefore downstream is going to pretty much increase blood pressure to a considerable degree. Great for people that have adrenal hormone insufficiency or adrenal fatigue. I know some of you that are medical doctors or whatever think you are. Hate the word adrenal fatigue, but look, it's just like, you know, whatever. Do you say adenosine receptor, you know, downregulation when you say caffeine tolerance? Like, you know, and do you bash on caffeine tolerance as a phrase? Just want to give people some perspective there. So yeah, licorice root, as far as I can tell, will increase aldosterone, and that is useful for people. I think the person's probably asking in relation to, you know, either cortisol or adrenal issues. And yeah, licorice root is extremely helpful for people with adrenal issues. It's one of the mainstays in the adrenal protocol that we have as a service at livecortex.com. Ryan, I took oxiracetam. In 1 gram quantities, 200 milligrams alpha GPC. I noticed absolutely nothing. However, my doctor prescribed me Prozac. I decided to remove the Prozac for 1 day, and next day took the stack and felt super awesome. I was sharp, witty, I was more sociable, and things came to my brain a lot easier. What's the deal? Well, Prozac is SSRI as far as I remember, and yeah, I mean, oxiracetam is hard to say what the interplay is in serotonin specifically, because oxiracetam is essentially mimicking GABA to an extent. It's a derivative. It's a cyclic derivative of GABA. So there's probably obviously downstream effects there, but I would also say that as far as I can tell, some SSRIs and potent work on serotonin in a way that they do tends to essentially inhibit acetylcholine functioning. So removing the Prozac removed that bottleneck, that barrier from acetylcholine signaling and function. And thus you got the effect from oxiracetam. That's exactly what I would say. This person's experience, I mean, what can we take from that? I mean, maybe you ought to think about trying to taper off a Prozac and get that crap out of your life, would be the thing that I would say. Not an official suggestion, but maybe it is. All right. Ryan, I tried Glycine with my stack and it rocked. Well, yeah, I guess he's asking what's going on. The deal is 500 milligrams Glycine, 100 of GPC, 100 of theacrine. Wow, pretty awesome. Okay, so two things there. When I was experimenting with the Cortex stack and trying to find different combinations, I'd actually had Huperzine A at, I want to say it was about 100 micrograms, and Glycine at 300 or 400 milligrams, a very low dose for Glycine. And I had gotten a substantially better result then than just having Huperzine A in the mix by itself, right? So like what was happening there? Glycine is another major modifier of neurotransmitters. It actually modifies NMDA, which if you can optimize that correctly, you'll have better memory. But the interesting thing about Glycine is that in rat studies, it actually shows increased metabolites for serotonin and dopamine, indicating that there's better serotonin and dopamine biosynthesis happening. So that's what I would say happened there, because the rest of your stack, GPC and theacrine, is not very dopamine centric. So I bet you just had, some better flowing serotonin and dopamine with that stack, which is actually really cool to have with GPC, which is working on acetylcholine and memory, and then theacrine, which is working on energy. That's what I'd say about that. Ryan, what are the longest half-life nootropics? Longest half-life nootropics? Well, theacrine would be the first one. Noopept is another one. For a lot of people, Noopept lasts like 5-6 hours. Uridine monophosphate is a very, very long-acting nootropic. Can't tell you exactly the exact half-life in hours. Triacetyluridine also, because it's it's very similar to uridine monophosphate, lasts a long time, specifically in the brain fluidity part. Uridine and triacetyluridine will make your brain fluid for a pretty long time if you respond well to it and your dose is right. CDP choline, obviously we know the half-life of that is like 70-something hours. Its absorbability is also absolute. It's like 99%. Modafinil definitely is a very, very long-acting, long half-life nootropic compound. Adrafinil, therefore, is another long-acting, long half-life nootropic compound. And then, for a lot of people, Alcar lasts 4 or 5 hours. Probably the biggest one, aside from all those, would be bromantane. I mean, bromantane's like 10 to 12 hours, sometimes even more for people on its work on tyrosine hydroxylase and kind of helping dopamine biosynthesis. So that's what I would say. Theacrine, Noopept, uridine, TAU, CDP, modafinil, adrafinil, Alcar, bromantane would be the longest half-life nootropics that are out there. Ryan, I've got SIBO. My doc suggested a low-carb diet, but I have no energy. What do I do? Okay, common misconception and common problem that people have. So here's the deal. SIBO is overgrowth of bacteria in the small intestine, and I don't even say the conventional, but like through the web, and there are people that consider themselves experts in dietary strategies in response to SIBO, and what they all say is low FODMAP diet, which eliminates a lot of particular foods that might be, that might feed the bacteria, but they're also very low carb. They're all low carb. All of them are low carb, and this person is eating a low carbohydrate diet too. What those people don't take into account is like, okay, so you have bacteria, they're really Archaeobacter, that are fermenting carbohydrates and creating gas. Goes up, it's reflux, goes down, it's bloating. And so simply because the carbs are feeding them, let's just remove the carbs and you'll be just fine. Except for the fact that that doesn't kill them. It's not going to kill them. They're just going to like build biofilms or do whatever it is they do to survive, and they're going to stay there. And you'll always have issues ultimately if you want to bring carbs back in, because God forbid you want to have some energy and do a workout and have some energy and hit PRs and stuff. So that's really not the approach to take. You have to take the approach of eating carbohydrates, but when you do, simultaneously killing in somewhat quantity the archaeobacter that are causing the issue in SIBO. And the only way you can do that is with an enteric-coated capsule, which means it'll survive stomach acid and end up where it needs to be, which is your small intestine, and open up. It's an antimicrobial to kill some of the bacteria as they're supposed to be fermenting the carbohydrates. What happens then is two things. You get lessening of symptoms because they're not producing as much methane or hydrogen. And you also get carbohydrates and you get energy therefore because of it, you know? Overall, you do not want to downregulate glucose metabolism. You do not want to try to rely solely on fatty acids and amino acids for energy long term. Most people just do not want to do that, okay? And I'm not going to go into my 9-month stint on keto and all the downstream things that happen. And at this point, the 6 years of research I've done on it all, like that's a 5-hour video. However, just trust me. Bring the carbs back in. Take yourself, I think it's Natural Factors, I believe it's Natural Factors, has a peppermint oil and oregano oil enteric-coated combination supplement that you should take when you eat carbohydrates. You should take 2 to 5 of them each time you eat carbohydrates. You'll be able to get the carbohydrates and lessen your symptoms at the same time. Will you completely knock SIBO out? That's something that takes a long time, let's just say that. But that's absolutely 100% your issue. That's 100% your issue. Next question, Sunifiram, best experience ever. Is it sustainable? Sunifiram, I believe, is an ampakine, so similar to aniracetam. Very low doses, 3 to 7 milligrams is what I would say on Sunifiram. And some cholinergic pathway modification as well. The answer to that question is no. I don't think it's sustainable. Meaning I don't think you could continuously take it. My own experience, and then because we've had consulting clients that responded pretty well to Sunifiram too. What always seems to happen is it works pretty well for about 2-3 days, and then it just does not work as well kind of ever again if they keep taking it. They'd have to take a while off of it, a couple weeks, maybe even a month, and then start taking it again. I think it's because it exerts its effects very, very powerfully. And so, the brain's probably doing some sort of homeostatic downregulation regulatory response, in response to it. Sunifiram is best used as a tool in the arsenal to take every now and then. That's it. Last time I took Sunifiram might have been a month and a half, 2 months ago. I actually remember taking it. And I take a 5 milligram dose, a little bit of choline bitartrate in the morning with my coffee, and words flow smoothly. I have a light stimulant feeling, but nothing heavy like an energy drink or something. It's actually really cool, but should be used sparingly in that regard. Last question, how to prevent damage from alcohol? I guess that's it. Well, there's 3 things I think you can do. One thing is studies show that the absorption of alcohol is less if you take glutamine. If you just take some glutamine powder, and I would shoot for 3 to 5 grams of glutamine powder, you'll have a little less absorption of it. Might also mean that the effects on GABA and therefore dopamine might be a little less, but that's okay. You're wanting to minimize damage. The next thing would be acetyl L-carnitine. Pretty clear studies show that it's preventing oxidative damage that alcohol induces on brain cells. So you want to be taking 300 to 500 milligrams of Alcar. And then lastly, I'd take some ALA, low dose ALA with it. It actually a good combination of things to do is little red wine and some ALA. It's just you feel good, but you don't get any of the downstream negative effects. Brain functions really well. ALA crosses into the blood-brain barrier and basically makes you make more brain glutathione. So very, very useful in that regard. You asked a question about preventing damage from alcohol. That is absolutely the answer. Glutamine, Alcar, ALA. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. That has been another Nootropics 20. I hope I've given you a lot of information to sit and stew about and think about and stuff. Specials, well, Cortex stack, no special on that, $31, but it's special because it's a freaking awesome stack. Go buy Cortex, livecortex.com. Cortex Stack is powerful for business people and people that want to get stuff done. If you need my help on formulating stacks or anything related to nootropics, we got 3 different packages. One is a 40-minute call, a pretty quick consult with me. We'll suggest some stacks to you, help you via email to kind of refine them. You can get that at livecortex.com. You can also drill me with questions the whole time. A lot of people do that. That's fine. The next level up is if you're a business person or executive and need to take your brain from where it is, not focused, having bad memory, not having energy, not functioning really well, to function like you did when you were 20 and you were just rocking it, or functioning like people who function at high levels like you need to be functioning as a business person. We've got executive packages for that. We have a 3.5-month package, and then we have a 6-month package. If you're a business person or an executive for a major company or an entrepreneur that's got the budget, or a venture capitalist, go with the 6-month package. Trust me, we will get you such substantial results. You'll come out of it like, my whole brain's different, my whole life is different, my productivity is different, I feel amazing, and now I actually have the tools to keep this going for the rest of my life. Executive consulting packages at livecortex.com. Last thing, if you are brand new to nootropics, we are launching next Wednesday, March 18th by 6 p.m. Eastern Time, Nootropics Ground Zero. Okay, Nootropics Ground Zero is a video course that is intended to take you from ground zero, pretty much brand new to nootropics, either utterly brand new or within a month or 2 or 3 months experimenting, not getting the best results of taking nootropics, to the pro mark. The pro mark is defined as 3 years into taking nootropics, understanding pretty much everything and knowing how to benefit and take nootropics. We created this course because a lot of people were looking at the masterclass and some of our other advanced stuff and like, it's just way over my head. So create a video course that takes me from ground zero to understanding how to use all this stuff really, really effectively to the pro level. You can pre-order Nootropics Ground Zero, the video course, right now. The link is the first link in the description below. You can pre-order it for a lot cheaper than when it comes out. It's coming out next week at $99. You can pre-order for $66 right now. Do that at the link below. The rest of the stuff at livecortex.com. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. This has been another super long Nootropics 20, and I hope I've given you some good information to sit and think about. Talk to you next time.